by these things. They get confused by language because language and vocabulary is different. They want to make it seem as if it's a different philosophy. And those who know intentionally try to mislead you into believing this because they do not want you to make that connection. But all it takes is someone to do some diligent study and to look at the different philosophies, look in, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary. So I get into the vocabulary and look at the words that they're using and see what they mean. And you start looking at words such as aku. And it starts talking about light and spirit beings. It talks about spirit beings that are responsible for protecting Asar. It talks about, when it starts looking at the different versions of the word aku, which you'll find in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary, you'll start finding how it defines the height, the weight, the size of certain types of spirits. Start talking about all sorts of things. And when you look at the vocabulary and the terms and the things that they talked about, it's one in the same. So what type of herbs did they use versus the herbs that we use now? The same. And that's the trick. Because remember, like I told you before, don't be fooled. And this is what I was explaining to you before about the herbs and the medicine. Look, if we were using medicine or herbs or spirits in Africa and on the continent, do you understand that? And those brothers and sisters who were involved in the transatlantic slave trade that came here, how was it that we were able to practice what became known as voodoo, what became known as Santeria, what became known as leukemia, Ocha, Palo, all these various systems, Brujeria, do you see? Cundible, if you want to deal with Brazil, all these different names and titles. How do we start practicing all these things? Do we have to just take thousands and thousands of years of observations of plants and so forth in order to deal with these things? Of course not. Because it does not, the science does not necessarily rest in one specific plant. That's not how nature works. That's not how nature works. And when we start dealing with indigenous knowledge and how these things really do work, then we'll start to deal with the fact of how you can find these different herbs and these different medicines. And the secret exists within the action of the environment. There are certain things, there are certain actions, there are certain things that are in play that exist within a certain environment that create a certain condition or an environment that allows certain types of spirits to congregate in those areas. And elders and those brothers and sisters that are learned in nature-based science are able to recognize that. So it does not matter if you're on the continent of Africa, if you're in Asia, if you're in Australia somewhere, or you're in Beaufort, Alaska, you're still able to observe nature. You're able to observe the action or the situations or the conditions that exist in certain environmental areas, and you're able to extract those spirits that exist in those areas from that knowledge. If it was just about the specific herbs, we would be out of luck if we were to move to an environment that the vegetation or the plant life was much different. So for you Brother Blackmore, who asked the question, the difference is it's one and the same. And the science is one and the same. The ancient Kemetic science and the science that you'll find in the indigenous communities is the same. Which leads me to, the topic of tonight, which the topic of tonight is indigenous spiritual baths, which I think we really need to start discussing because this is how we deal with the herbs. Because, see, people want to talk about how we deal with the herbs, but the real knowledge comes in with how do we deal with these spirits. And spiritual baths play a large role. In this. And Blackmore asked the question, he wants to know, besides the herbs, the insects, the dirts, and so forth, and the incantations, how are, the comparative? What are the similarities? And let's just deal with this, okay? And this gets, directly into the topic. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to the lines, and I'm going to ask you guys to get involved because I want you guys to start asking questions because I'm not going to put all the information out there. You got to start asking questions. You ask me some questions that are good enough to get me to start talking about it, we'll talk about it. But I'm not going to put everything out there. But let's deal with spiritual baths. Most people are used to these esoteric, Wiccan, New Age fluff when it comes to spiritual baths. I've heard people like Bobby Hemmett and all these other people, not down in Bobby Hemmett, but I'm just giving an example, talk about, a cap full of bleach, a cap full of ammonia, and a white candle, and, chanting Shamalama Ding Dong, and that's supposed to be a version of what we're calling a spiritual bath. Not even close. Not even close to the way we do it as indigenous brothers and sisters by whatever title, by whatever continent that we exist on. Any woollied hair, dark skin, light skin, whatever, brother or sister that's indigenous, that's not how we did it. We didn't go to the local grocery store and pick up some ammonia. We didn't go to a local grocery store and get some bleach and a white 7-day, 7-spirit BS candle. That's not how we did it. And this is what we need to start dealing with, brothers and sisters. When you start dealing with indigenous science, you are dealing with nature. Let's get that straight. Nature. Indigenous knowledge is nature-based. Things are based in nature. It's not based in a lot of pretty candles, a lot of pretty drapery, and a lot of this esoteric fluff that you're going to get in a lot of this book. It's about the operative knowledge that exists in knowing how to extract and how to deal with spirits that exist in various places in nature, knowing how to deal with the minds and the mentalities that exist within your environment. This is what we're dealing with. So when you deal with spiritual baths, when you travel to the IKS website, and I have on there, and I'm going to start putting some information there because I think this is necessary for me to talk about it before I start putting that information out there so that you guys would even understand the value in these things instead of looking at them as if, oh man, what are these? Pieces of wood or pieces of sticks? How is this a spiritual bath? Well, I'm going to explain to you how these are spiritual baths. But let me go ahead and go to the lines real quick because I see that we have, quite a few people that are on the line. And if you have any questions, we can deal with it real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and get into the topic of discussion. Let's go 662. You're on the air. What is your name and what is your question? Okay. 954, you're on the air. What is your name and what is your question?
This is Phoenix Dragon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, brother. How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm doing good.
Okay, I want to say thanks for first of all for bringing the show to us so we can learn this. And I have a question about the thing you taught us about the let me back up, the ancestral shrine.
Okay. Yeah, okay. No problem. I will definitely answer that. But right now, one of the things that we're doing is we're talking about spiritual bath. Do you have any questions about the spiritual bath? Or the subject that we're talking about tonight?
No, I think no, not at this time.
Not this time. Okay. No problem. What I'm going to do is give it a second, brother, and I promise you, give me a couple minutes. Let me discuss a few things on the spiritual bath, and, hold the line. I'm definitely going to get to your question about the shrine that I was explaining on how to build, okay?
Okay.
Hey, you got it. Okay. 662, you're on the air. What is your name and what is your question? Six 662, you're on the air. What is your name and what is your question? Okay. Let's go ahead. 615, you're on the air. What is your name? What